Welcome to Stay in 4, Season 5. I'm your host, Terrence Edwards. Joining me to have a great discussion and conversation, we got Tamisha Blue, Jimmy Roberts, Kevin Brown, Kevin Jones, and also Roderick Smith. Welcome to Season 5, guys. Thank you for joining me.
Appreciate it.
So this season, we're going to focus on a lot of unfiltered discussions on business, culture, life, politics, and entertainment. So this season, we completely revised a whole bunch of stuff. We hope that you love what we're doing. Starting with Tamisha, she will be covering culture and entertainment. Kevin Brown will be covering real estate and politics. Kevin Jones, business, finance, and sports. And Roderick, culture and politics. And of course, Jimmy Roberts is our guest host for today. And we're going to hop into an icebreaker question, starting with Tamisha, who I know will drop something pretty dope once I say this. If you can guarantee one thing for yourself in 2025, whether it's personal, financial, cultural, or societal, what would it be and why? To the floor, guys.
Yeah, I'm definitely focused on a lot of personal goals this year. One of my big ones is just making sure that I take my children out of the country to see more of the world, especially how America has been lately. I just want them to be able to see some different cultures. I want them to see how other people live. I want them to understand that we really do have way too much here. That's another thing. So, but that's one of my personal goals that I'm sure I'm going to accomplish it, but I definitely want to do that.
What about you, Roderick?
I definitely have to go with personal goals as well. I think for me, just there's always so many things that I want to do. And I feel like the year goes by quick. And I'm like, man, I wanted to do this and I wanted to do that. And so just making sure that I do everything that I set my mind to this year. Definitely personal goals.
Jimmy Roberts?
I'm going to say consistency, right? Just being consistent and showing up in the things that I know, right, that I've checked that, yes, this is the way you want to go. So the consistency for me.
Hold on a sec. We got Rod. His camera messed up a little bit. Might have to turn it, twist it, something.
Oh, it is
there you go. And Kev Brown. Same question for you.
I'll switch it up a little bit. I'm gonna go with curiosity. Things are gonna happen quick. And it's gonna continue for quite some time. So I want to remain curious, remain skeptical, and move accordingly.
Jones?
Yeah. Consistency, as Brother Jimmy said as well, and auditing my circle. So beginning a different circle with like-minded individuals that hold me accountable, that hold me to a higher standard, and that I can learn from. So just looking forward to personal development within my family, my friends, everybody around me. I just want to make sure that everybody around me, I'm gaining good energy.
So I think for me, I'm going to say two things, right? Number one is personal. Say it in 4 for me is personal. Right now, we're at 1,600 subscribers on the YouTube page, and I think 155 on Instagram. And it is a personal goal for me to get us up to at least 10,000 by the end of this season for sure, at least on YouTube. So anything I need to do, I don't care if it's ads, marketing, conversations, buying things, talking to people, I'm doing it over the next 45 episodes and the next 6 to 7 months of us filming for sure. From a financial standpoint, it's the same exact thing. I have something to prove, and then also make sure that my team is rewarded for their hard work. Going over to a different segment is, what's one thing that you're most concerned about happening in 2025? Starting with you, Jimmy.
I think that the most concerning thing is people getting caught up in the distractions component instead of really understanding their purpose and what they're supposed to be doing. As my track coach say, he looking in the next lane when you're not running your race, right? There's a bunch of distractions on all aspects, the phone, the computer, just people, and they're projecting their also distractions, right? So, garnering and protecting the people that you're around also protects that. But I think that's the most and not fearful thing, but I see this happening on a more rapid kind. And now is the worst time. Like, this is the time when we really supposed to be on our P's and Q's. Is almost like in a boxing ring when the boxer get wobbly, you know what I'm saying? Like, all this stuff is happening. Everything is tearing down that we ever seen, right? So now is the time to run our race, right? Coming strong. So I think the distraction components.
Demisha?
Every book that I've probably read, I'm gonna say in the last couple of years, it's been something, or I've had to read with my kids, something just reiterating what the earth or the world will come to. So I guess,
Oh, wow.
just like projecting that into seeing those things come to fruition, like, yeah, 'cause that's what we've been having a lot of conversations about. Handmaid's Tale, Hunger Games. We've been having conversations about those things. Like, do you think this can really happen? Like, are we headed this way? And it's like, yeah, it could happen. I mean, look at how quickly things happen. Look at how quickly rights are taken away. Look at how quickly people can have an executive order that says they're the only ones who can determine what the laws are these days.
Here we go.
How quickly things can happen. So yes, mommy believes any of this can happen, but I would go back to what Jimmy said. I gotta stay focused in my lane. So
Kevin Brown.
I mean, I think I'm pretty on par with everybody else. Afraid of losing my livelihood. Like, that's the main thing I'm concerned about. You know, I'm a realist, and although I agree with a lot of what's going on right now, it could affect me. So yeah, that's my number one concern.
Rod, for you?
I hate saying the word fear, and I know I heard the word fear here, and I know that's like something in my family a word that we try to say we don't use, but I'll use the word worry, which is actually very similar. But just worrying about the world, especially in the work that I do in the movement space, worrying about everything that I worked so hard for in the last 10 years and the change that we've actually made, kind of like reversing, like literally just in the short amount of time, I've seen so many things reverse. And so that just really, really, I know it's at the top of my mind every day. So that's just something I worry about.
Kev Jones?
Not being able to protect and provide for my family, my wife and kids. I mean, that's never probably going to change. I'll always have that fear. But now, with a lot of the stuff that's happening in the climate of the country, climate of the world, I think about that a lot more often. So, that's why I'm grounded and want to stay grounded in the things that I believe in, and so I can take that fear away from myself.
So for me, this might sound a little weird, right? But it's something about seeing people come into the new year, but not make it out of the year and then into the next new year, right? So I think that's something that I'm really concerned about, and not so much for myself, but whether it's family members who are getting much older, friends that are getting older. And I mean, a lot of people when you log on to Facebook, people are passing away at 30, 25, 19. Like, it's so quick, you know what I mean? So young. So that's what I'm really worried about, believe it or not. It's just, we're in February right now. And then December, you're like, damn, this person didn't make it to 2026, or they're not going to on that last day. So, all right. So that's just something that we wanted to test out. Nice little icebreaker. So this is the first episode. I don't know if we're going to do that for episode 2, but I would like to hop into our first topic and the first segment for today's show, the future of HBCUs and public colleges. So with potential federal funding cuts targeting DEI programs, what does the future hold for HBCUs and public universities? Let's start with Tamisha.
I really think that they have all projected growth. I'm sure even with the election, they all project growth. Like, I have a godbrother that goes to Hampton. They're planning on accepting 1,600 freshmen in the fall. And so they're projecting growth. I just don't know if on the back end, they are thinking about the financial repercussions of that. Like, I don't know if they need to start reaching out to more alumni to get some more money in there. Because I mean, the HBCU is DEI. Like, that's what it is. That community, that's what that community is. And I know a lot of public institutions have been a lot more lenient with how they've been accepting students, and a lot of the liberal programs that they've offered. which makes students want to come to the school. So hopefully they'll keep the numbers up and they have some type of other financial plan instead of just depending on federal funding. Because, you know, once a lot of them lose federal funding, they start losing accreditation. They start losing attendance. They start losing a lot of things. So hopefully they have some plans in play.
Okay, Brian, how you feel about that?
My general confusion with DEI is we already have anti-discrimination laws in place. And when it comes to higher education and how there's a potential that they may pull away funding from those universities, I understand the initial reaction is to be concerned, but have we ever thought about how those funds could potentially be reallocated? Like they may in the DEI programs at these HBCUs, but does that not create the opportunity to open up different programs that may be geared towards something like STEM?
So one thing I want to do real quick, right? Someone who's watching this right now might think, what is DEI, right? How do I know about this whole federal funding and why are HBCUs even receiving this? So like if somebody's watching it, how do we break that down so they can digest what's really going on? Because right now we're talking on the surface and I mean, we know what everything is, but who can kind of like target exactly what DEI, the program is and what's happening with the whole HBCUs? I don't know if you want to tackle that, Jim, or
Well, I mean,
anyone can do it. Anybody, yeah.
I'm gonna have a kind of reverse aspect of it, right? Because I think the whole DEI, diverse, equity, inclusion component actually hurts HBCUs, because if you go to these HBCUs, you get almost everything but certain indigenous people, because they are all DEI hires. So you have the Indian teacher, you have the Asian teacher. At HBCUs, they are all, it's almost reverse. So because this institution is geared to one set, anything outside of that set is said now DEI, right? So when you go to Bethune-Cookman and you see all the, you know, diverse, you know, instructors, but again, that now go back to what HBCUs was supposed to be for, because you know that's not really the case at all. Like for me, HBCUs are agents, are puppets. Like if you got something that the Rockefellers and stuff was a part of creating, then that can't be at all beneficial to us, right? At no aspect. So right there, that's a farce, right? So now we get back to, you know, HBCUs can easily get their stuff out of all the, you know, the debt and components, making a credit union. They literally can have credit unions at HBCUs that harness the loans from the students, that harness the money that's coming in. And then with credit union, you can now purchase land. Like, so all these things exist, right? Like all these answers really exist. And the HBCUs is really in my, you know, is a part of that distraction component. Come here, get in debt, but we're not going to at all, you know, be able to help you outside of there, right? You're on your own in that regard. So I know that didn't answer your question, but is the diverse component of, you know, the ones that have less being able to provide for them in order to set the standard as an equal kind of playing ground.
Yeah,
Jimmy,
Brian, you look like you want to respond to that.
I mean, I was just gonna say, Jimmy, it doesn't sound like you and I disagree too much.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, once you really pull back the substance of it, you really understand like that's all a farce, man. It's not even really beneficial to our community.
I wouldn't say it's a farce. I'd agree, like I'd partially agree that to question how beneficial it has been to us in the long run. I think there was a need for it early on, but now, like, how beneficial is it to us today? And like you said, when you're in an environment that's mainly Black or Indian or Hispanic, you become the majority. And now DEI, like if you're implementing DEI, you now have to integrate those who were not intended to benefit from DEI.
Right.
Yeah.
Roderick, how do you feel about that?
Well, as a graduate of Florida A&M University, HBCU, I have some mixed reviews. My first thing that I have to start with is that you will never, and I'm not sure how many people here have been to an HBCU or graduated from an HBCU, you would never in your life find a place like a HBCU campus. You would never in your life be able to go to a university as a Black or brown person and be able to go to the financial aid office and say, hey, like, I don't have the money for this semester. Is there anything that y'all can do for me? And everybody literally huddle around you and find you money. And this is consistent amongst HBCUs, not just the one that I attended. You know what I mean? You would never in your life be in an environment with Black and brown people that are that smart, right? There's also this like false narrative that at HBCU that every single student is Black. There were white students in my class. There were Indian students in my class. For example, my university had one of the top pharmacy schools, and you go drive past the pharmacy school, you'll see every single race that you can imagine at the school, right? And so I think that when I hear different things about like separation and DEI, I think people don't really understand what DEI means. So a lot of people, especially when in regards to media, it's like there's the reason why they don't want it there is that because they're scared, right? Because when you talk about like DEI is not so the reason why DEI was even created is because they don't want to let us in spaces that we're overqualified for, right? So we're not saying create this and we want you to give us special treatment. We're saying that DEI is created because we shouldn't have to beg to get in spaces where we're overqualified for. And so it's just so many like factors that tap into that. But I definitely think there's a need for HBCUs. I definitely feel like if anyone has ever experienced and been on an HBCU campus and attended classes or graduated from an HBCU, that this would be a whole different conversation.
Kevin Jones, could this move backfire politically if it leads to a decline in education quality? How do you feel about that?
Well, let me first start with the HBCU thing. My parents steered me.
Head real quick.
My parents steered me away from it. I wanted to go to Hampton University. I got accepted there. It was in Virginia, and they didn't give me a lot of money to go, but I wanted to figure it out, and so I ended up going to a predominantly white school because they gave me the more money. But I do think that because quote unquote, my father said that's the real, like where you're going is going to be the real world. But to me, it wasn't the real world. It wasn't my world, the world that I grew up in, all those things. But I do think that with that potentially going away with HBCUs and things of that nature where it becomes integrated, I do think that there could be some loss of identity with us. And I really think that might be a lot of backlash to where that is, because we don't have quote unquote a home to go to go educate, get ourselves educated, things like that. So I just think on that level of I think it would be in concern for our people, the next generation growing up. They might not think that like that, but I mean, it's something to think about.
Okay, Brian, let me ask you this before we move on to our next segment. What should students and alumni do to fight back in any type of way?
I think rather than just dig their heels in with protecting existing programs that are at risk, I think they should do that also. Don't get me wrong. I think they should do that also. But I think they should also prepare on how to reappropriate some of these funds that may be taken away, how to get access to them again, and what programs can they initiate that are parallel, in a sense, to these programs that got rug pulled. If you believe in them that much, which a lot of them I do, find a way to get access to those funds again. And find a way to implement the teachings, the lessons, the values that you previously were under DEI.
Jim, you got something to say?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I don't know how it works. Can I raise my hand or whatever? So just like for clarity, I understand the impact that HBCUs have on our community. That's negating none of that. My speaking point is really from the leadership, right? It's really from the information is being taught. So it's nothing against the kids, right? It's nothing against the students and the impact that it is, helping. But it could be more, is my point. So I don't give points for just potential, like the components. And when you look at it, it's like, have they been holding us back? have the HBCUs been holding the community back in the sense that a lot of the things that, you know, I was mentioning about how HBCUs can operate or things that they can implement. There's no reason why HBCUs don't have hemp farms and cannabis fields, right? Like private, like this would get that money, all of that money they asking other people for. I mean, an institution, a school, doing research on hemp alone. What are we talking about at that point? We don't have to ask anybody for anything. So I think a lot of these things that they're pulling and or they're snatching, it's just distraction. It's like having kids. You buy them stuff so you can take it from them. Maybe that will get them in line, right? Because if they really start utilizing their abilities and talents, what are we talking about? Is my point. So that's nothing against the institutions in their self.
Tamisha, you want to hop in before we move on, or you feel good? You good with it?
No, I loved all the points that everybody made. That was a good round table for that. I'm good.
Okay. All right. So moving on to conservatorships have been widely discussed in pop culture, but is this a celebrity problem or a real world issue? So I'm going to go over to Kevin Jones. How do you feel about that?
It's a real world issue. I'm trying to find the words to explain what I'm trying to say, but it's a real world issue. Can you come back to me, please, parents?
Yeah.
Didn't they make a whole movie about this?
They did. They've made a couple of documentaries about it. They have.
About this lady who would find like lonely elderly people that are far away from their family and would show up and claim that they're incontinent, and then she would get legal conservatorship. Yeah, it's a real world problem. Like there's always gonna be scammers in the world, but also there's like nefarious family members, man. Like a death is a good example of something that'll always bring out the worst in people. And I think taking care of a relative for which you're legally responsible for them, I think that can also bring out the worst in somebody, especially if you're in a stage in your life where you're not prepared for this. You're not prepared for this. You don't want this. This is intrusive to your life. You may love the person, but you know, it's still some sort of a weight, some sort of a burden. And I think a lot of people will take advantage of it. I personally heard a few stories of people taking advantage of their conservatorship of somebody.
Yeah. I think that it was brought to mainstream, you know, like people are actually like talking about it more, and it's become like a real world problem that people want to discuss. Like it was brought to mainstream through all the celebrity of it, you know, Britney Spears, and now we have Wendy Williams. So people are actually having the conversations more, and it's been brought to the light like, hey, is this really what's happening, you know, behind closed doors? Like, are there some adults who really can't sign a paper without another adult telling them that they can?
So my thing is, who actually appoints for that person to be in charge? Like, how does that work?
The state will.
Right.
They like if it's a family member. If you're lucky, well, I'm not gonna say if you're lucky, because just like Kevin said, it's scammers everywhere. So if you're lucky-ish, it might be a family member or someone who you've known your whole life, as opposed to just some random person who can be over your entire life, all your finances, everything. And you don't even know, like that's in the case of Wendy Williams, their court appointed. So she doesn't, this isn't someone that she knew. Like this is just somebody that the court was like, oh, okay, this person knows a lot about the entertainment world, so they should be able to help Wendy with her life.
Absolutely insane.
And that's crazy. You don't know this lady, like over her father, over her brother, over her sister-in-law, and over her son. Like you pick a random person to be over this lady's entire life and be able to declare her incompetent, or she has dementia, or now the doctors are saying no, she doesn't have dementia. Like it's just a lot of stuff.
So now, like if that person, like Wendy, if she would have passed away, that person decides who gets her money.
They get their entire estate.
If it's not bound in like a trust or something like that.
Yeah, if it's not in a trust. But her conservator would get the entire estate.
Do you think that we need like stronger like laws to prevent any type of abuse with this, or what?
Definitely. I think there needs to be checks and balances. In most of the cases that I've seen, real world and celebrity, there are no checks and balances. I think that it should only always be temporary. I think someone should always be checking. If it's every 6 months, if it's every year, whatever it is, if it's not a celebrity, it can go on for years that these people are robbing other people blind, and you don't know about it until someone dies and does an autopsy, and you're like, oh, they were drugging them all these years.
I got a question. What so let's say this is an elderly person. They've clearly lost their mind. They don't have any family. They don't have a spouse. They don't have any children. They don't have a will in place. They don't have a trust in place. But they're pretty liquid with their net worth. What should happen? Like, that's worst case scenario. You got nobody near you, and what would happen right now is the state would appoint you a conservator, right? So as opposed to that, what would we do? How would we protect that person?
Well, hopefully they got a best friend named Terrence, and Terrence could take the money.
Best friend.
Terrence will take real good care.
Right. And I could go move to Italy.
Let's go back to school. Let's put that on our goals for 2025. Let me see how I become a conservative.
Yeah, so I do want to move on to a guy who has a lot of money, Elon Musk. He's in full control of the Department of Government Efficiency. Kev, what's going on with this guy? Is he really creating some type of value, or is it just like nonsense off of what he's doing?
I think at the end of all this, when all is said and done, when the dust settles, when the storm calms, it's going to be a net positive to the U.S. I think it's going to be rowdy, and I think it's going to be turbulent, and rightfully so, because we've had plenty of chances to fix this. We had the dot-com bubble, we had the 2008 housing crisis, we had COVID, post-COVID, let me say that. We had all these opportunities to right the ship, but in the past, decade and a half, we've accrued nearly $20 trillion, and that's across multiple administrations, but $20 trillion in debt, and that's across multiple administrations. So how long can we kick this road down the can before somebody does something? And the longer that we wait, the more drastic the measures have to be, and the more people that are going to get caught up in the turbulence. I think it's a just cause. We're just not going to like how it feels, but I think it will be a net positive.
Tamisha?
More positive for him or more positive
for now we also do have to remain respectful, remain wary that at the end of the day, we have a billionaire president, we have a billionaire special, what are they called? Special contractor or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. So we do have to remain wary of that. Although we can look at Trump's past record, we can look at his first 4 years and say, okay, all like rising tide lifted all boats in this scenario. Yes, the wealthy accrued more wealth in relevance to everybody at the bottom, but everybody went up, right? Then we see the direct contrast of the next administration. Obviously, let's give them a little grace because of COVID and how that affected everything. But we can look at we have a stark comparison, and that's what I think led to him getting elected again. That and in tandem with Elon Musk and what he's shown with Twitter, what he did with Twitter or X, formerly known as Twitter. There's a bunch of hoop and hollering about when he took that over, doing the same exact thing that's going on right now. When he took that over, gave everybody the opportunity to take a buyout or get back to work and actually put in some work. Ended up laying off everybody that didn't take the offer. What happened? Everybody was screaming at the top of their lungs that the whole website was going to shut down. It wasn't going to be profitable. Still not profitable. It wasn't going to function properly. There's going to be all this hate speech that was perpetuated throughout the profile or platform. And we see that it's more balanced than ever. We see that advertisers are coming back. We see that he cut 80% of the labor force and is operating just the same as it was before. We see a more reflective public square than we've seen before. So why can we not see the track record that's taken place and at least have some faith that what they're actually doing, if we hold them to their word, what they're actually doing is going to ultimately bring value to the U.S.
Jimmy, how you feel about that?
Oh man. All right. So I mean, one
And real quick, by the way, Roderick, we still can't see you, so I don't know what's going on with your camera.
Man, I don't know what's going on. I think it's the HBCU comment I made. It wouldn't come on. I'm gonna try one more thing. But I definitely think it was the HBCU comment.
CEO.
they got you out of here. Yeah, go out and try to come back in.
Okay,
See
that's what I'm
happens.
gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, even if you got to reset your phone or something. But yeah, go ahead, Jim.
I mean, I think we've seen it, right? Like, so I'm big on patterns. A lot of this stuff we already seen. If you look at history, it doesn't have to be the exact same thing, right? But it's how it's being utilized. Like, for instance, you mentioned X and it's not being profitable. X is profitable because it's an influence site, right? More people go there to get their news than anywhere else. So if we're setting out this diabolical plan, we want more people to be tuned in. It has nothing to do with money. They don't need money anymore. So even the concept of the United States, we're looking at it as it's going to help us, help the people here. They're looking at it as a business gamble, right? We don't care about the United States. This is a pile of business, right? And I mean, look at United States versus a lot of other places. The indigenous people of the United States have no control over the United States. I mean, at least in Africa, they gave it back and it kind of looked familiar. Where United States, that's not the case, at all. In most instances. And then we talk about the political component of them winning. No one else can add it to it with the electoral college component. There can no one say, hey, let's change that. Now that's rigged. If that's rigged, then how can we have any faith in any of it? Like, it got to stop right there. Like, this shit is a scheme.
Roderick, welcome back.
Yes.
I'm afraid to give you an opportunity to speak because I don't want Elon to cut us off. Right.
Right.
Yeah. But go ahead. Take a stab at it, Roderick.
I think for me, it's much bigger than a lot of things that I heard on this call. Like, I want to be that person that you guys want us to be, that, Jimmy just spoke of, and Kevin, looking at the policies and looking at these different things, right? But I also want to be exactly, I want to hold everyone else at the same standard that we're held at. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that these people are qualified to do these jobs. I really don't. Do I think that some of them are good businessmen?
Yeah.
Yes, right. Have some of them made a lot of money in their business? Yes, right. But I'm not talking about helping me with a business plan or a business contract. We're talking about the United States of America. And I don't think that people understand like how deep that is, right? Like, it's not just, we're talking about our families. So like, when we talk about these policies and we talk about some of these things changing, it hasn't even been enough time for us to see fully what they can do. But in a short amount of time, we have seen some things, right? And then there's going to be some pushback where people are going to say, well, some of these policies and different things they've done okay on. But what we've seen in such a short amount of time, I'm scared to even see what is to come. And I think that at the beginning of this call, everybody stated that. And so I think when talking about like politics and talking about like our lives, like, this is serious stuff. Like, we got the guy who runs Tesla running stuff. Like, that's kind of crazy.
Can two things be true?
Two things can be true. But this is our life. This ain't no, like, I just feel like running the United States of America, this ain't no joke. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like, what happens now affects generations to come. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
So I just feel like, I hate to say it, but a lot of people who speak in confidence of these people, I want y'all to remember it. That's what I will say. I want y'all to remember it.
Complete ownership of my
stand. I want y'all to remember it.
I'll be the first one to call you, Roderick, and say, you know what?
Yeah,
I was wrong.
And then the last thing I'm going to say, though, that's also important is that to add to that is that oftentimes humans do not really understand the impact of things until it affects the people that they love and they care about.
I've heard that so much over the past 2 weeks. I've heard that so much, and it's valid. It's valid. It's not a saying for no reason. Like,
so I have a question for Roger real quick. So for the last couple of weeks, Elon's really been digging into a lot of different like businesses and stuff like that and saying, hey, the government gave this and, these people are receiving checks and they're not even alive anymore, all that stuff like that. So my basic question, where the audience can understand,
Mhm.
Roderick, do you believe that Elon Musk is doing a bad job in his position, off of what he has done and shown for the last couple of weeks?
I don't want to jump out there and say he's doing a bad job. What I'll say is I don't think he's qualified for the job. I'll comfortably say that. I don't think and confidently say that. I don't think he's qualified for the particular job that he has. I also don't think that, like some of the things you just brought up, right? I don't think that people should be doing that, right? But that still doesn't mean that if I say I don't think people should be, using people's social security numbers and all those different things, that still doesn't make him qualify for the job because he pointed out that that's something that's happening. Right? That's not like rocket science to figure that out when you're in the position that he's in. So I don't think that's what I think.
Right. Do you have, not to put you on the spot, but do you
Okay.
have someone in mind that you think would be perfect for the job or qualified? If you
You know what? I'm gonna be honest. Off the top of my head, I don't have this perfect person in my mind that I think will be perfect for the job. But what I do know is, again, I can confidently close and say that I don't think that he's the person for that job.
Gotcha.
Can I chime in one last time?
Yeah, sure.
So I don't think anybody's perfect for any job, but I will say I think it's a great pick for this job, auditing the federal government in effort to increase the efficiency of our federal government. And the reason I say that is because what he is specialized in is IT. And if we do nothing else with this government other than update the systems, the healthcare system, the social security system, FFA, what is it called? Yeah, the FFA. If we do nothing other than upgrade and update these systems so that the technology is on par with what we have today commercially, at the very least, can we at least agree that the government would probably run much more efficiently, meaning we are wasting less of our taxpayer money?
Roderick?
Y'all talking about like somebody running an IT company. If I had an IT company and it was
but so many of our systems are outdated. We had a crash.
So,
We had a whole airline system crash back in June, July of last year. The whole airline system crashed, and they specifically said it was because the system is so old and outdated. So if we did nothing, you see all these planes going down today. So if we did nothing else other than upgrade and update those systems, would we not at least save a minuscule amount?
Do I think he should help with some IT? Yeah, absolutely. But that's totally different than saying he should have the position that he has.
And
I'm not saying he don't know IT. I'm not saying he's not a good businessman. Everywhere you look to the left and the right, somebody's in a Tesla, right?
Because he specializes in IT and specifically AI now with, what is it called? Gronk? With AI now. He has access to this. He knows how they work and everything. If he is auditing the federal government, is this not the prime candidate to do so?
Let
or
me
at
ask
least
you a
the people
question.
that he appoints? Sure.
Because I don't know. So I want to go into that question and say I don't know.
Sure.
Has he been audited?
Has he been audited? Has Tesla
has
been
he been
audited?
audited?
And that's what everybody want to know.
Oh, you mean as a government contractor?
I'm just saying, has his businesses been audited? Because we're so quick to believe in people that we don't know. And we haven't even seen have they been audited. Because I just take an example, we audited the president right now. A lot of the things, he's a hypocrite. And so I'm saying this, I'm not putting that on, Elon, but I'm just saying, has he been audited? Because you have such a strong belief in him, but you had less belief in HBCUs. And so that's concerning to me.
I believe in what built HBCUs. I believe in the values of HBCUs. I believe in the value that HBCUs give to Black community and multicultural communities. Don't get me wrong on that. What I will say, to your question, has he been audited? For all of the public companies that he owns, he does have to give up quarterly earnings calls. And so that, in essence, is kind of an audit. He has to report to his investors to ensure he's obliging by his fiduciary duties. When it comes to the federal government, this is where I remain skeptical of Elon Musk, because he is one of the biggest government contractors, and he did, under the Biden administration, at the end of his term, get a very large contract for these Tesla Cybertrucks. So this is where I remain skeptical. If you're going to audit the government, audit yourself as well.
I will say this, you know who gets audited every single time we want to try to get something? Us six right here when it comes to credit, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. We're going to go to the next segment with Kevin Jones. Yeah, I'm so good at this.
So good.
The CFPB has sued Experian and Equifax over deceptive practices. How does this impact consumers? Excuse me, Kevin Jones, coming to you.
Impact
Impact.
everybody.
Mhm.
It impacts everybody. All of us here, everybody that has a social security number that are over the age of, well, nowadays, some kids have things in their name that they don't even know. So 1 out of 4 people in America have something inaccurate on their credit report. Just think about that. 1 out of 4.
Mm.
That's a crazy thing to think about. So they're getting sued because their practices is they're not actually investigating things that should be removed. And as a person, as I looked at my credit report when I saw this, so I pulled it, and I have misspelling of my name, I have inaccuracies in payments, inaccuracies in addresses, all those things that can affect your credit score, right? So I think that everybody needs to look into this a little bit more deeper, just as in personal, about your credit, because your credit can get you more than anything in this world. This country is ran by credit. So why wouldn't your credit be up to the standard where you need it to be? And I all of us on the call, everybody that's listening, everybody that's watching, pull your credit report, and I guarantee you, it is going to be inaccurate with something, a name, a payment, an address, even your social security number can be wrong. So, and that, like, your name could be misspelled or anything like that. Those are things that you can get removed. And I think with this coming up now, this is something that you should take a look at, because they're investigating these things incorrectly.
Hey, Jim, what are the biggest credit mistakes that people make, you think?
Buying into it. I mean, to be honest, credit again is a system that we buy into, and now we say, okay, we can get this from that.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't even question the credit, because other countries don't have the same credit systems that we have. So I say the biggest mistake is the buying into it, right? And if you look at it, even in the higher education in college, it starts, hey, you got to get credit in order to build the credit. So they put you in the rat race, right? Like, but these are the things that these institutions know, right? Like, so I mean, we're asking questions that I think is more reactive, instead of asking, how can we change this, and why do we believe that this is the route that we need to go?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like,
Jimmy cooking right now, just so I mean, he's really telling it, because he's right. The instant, I can give you an example instance of getting into credit. My first day on college campus, you know who came to me? Discover. Gave me a $3,000 credit limit, just like that. Yep. I'm in the rat race, just like he just said, without even knowing what's going on. I signed up for something I didn't even know what it was. Oh, I can swipe this and not have to worry about it. Oh, okay, let me do that. So, and I think that it's a setup. It really is. But I also understand that this country is operated on credit, so we have to kind of conform it to some point.
Until we don't, like, we literally once you understand what it is, then you understand how to combat it, right? Like, for instance, I was talking about having credit unions. If we had our own credit union, right, credit is no longer a thing. I got your money, your checks come here, right? So now we can just go. So that is a system, again, that's already been set for us. They can tell who you are, your ethnicity, by your social security number, by your zip code. So again, why are we even putting our energy in a system that we know is rigged for us the whole time? We just like putting the weights on it, like we can make it.
But yeah, you can finish. My fault.
No. I'm just saying, like understanding that we do have an option, and that's not the only option, I think is the most impactful component of that.
And what would that option be? Because someone watching this, if somebody's coming to them on the campus at 18, 19 and giving them a credit card, and they don't know their options, the parents don't know the option, what are some of these other options?
The institution, right? The institution, they understand what's happening, so they can easily either set their own credit system up, right, for their own credit union. Right now, we can build our own system. We can build our own, like, now that you have things like cryptocurrency and all of these components, all of that changes. Anything that was really on the table 5 years ago, really you might as well just scratch that joint off and now really relook at things with some new glasses, right? Because the world is vastly changed, and a lot of us got stuck in a mold that they kept feeding us, whereas we didn't stop, take a breath, and just look around. It's like, yo, why are we even where we're at? And it's all we've been guided that way.
So if somebody pull a credit report and they see something on it, how do they even dispute something that might be incorrect on there?
Go directly to the financial institution. I'm sorry, either Equifax, TransUnion, send them a letter.
Yep.
Hey, this is inaccurate. Kind of, pinpoint exactly what it is. You can use consumer law also. That's another thing for the FCRA. That and the CFPB. I mean, I don't know if it's going to stay here as long as it is, but they also help with, you can submit a complaint. Hey, if they're not removing this, hey, you need to remove this. And the CFPB, keeps those complaints on file. And before you know it, if you get but so many complaints, you're going to get sued. So there's like debt collectors and all kinds of people that are on these lists that the CFPB presents where they're not doing things accurately, or they're not removing things when they're supposed to, then they end up getting sued. So, I mean, that's just something that you could probably look into. I've disputed stuff off my credit lately. Just my name being what it was, and it's spelled wrong, and there's all these things that were incorrect. And then once you get all that stuff cleaned up, the things that might negatively affect your credit will start to fall off, because like what Jimmy was saying, like everything that's on your credit is tied to something behind it. So it's an identifier. So that identifier pretty much tells you, okay, you signed up for this, and it's attached to something else. And that's how they try to verify if this is you or not. So you cleaning up, your personal information, one name, one address, one phone number, one email address. That kind of eliminates validation on certain things that you can clean things up, so you can make and your score go up. So that's something that I think people just need to just clean, if anything, clean up your personal information on it, because it's probably inaccurate, or you probably have 10 million aliases like I did.
Wow. All right. ASAP Rocky, Rihanna, and the power of PR in legal battles. Roderick, what's going on with ASAP?
Man, well, he won the case, which to me wasn't a surprise, because in speaking on PR, just the way the case was laid out, from, of course, Rihanna attending court with him down to even what they wore. They had a stylist, and they both, their clothes are feeding off each other and all those different things, down to the lawyer and the lawyer's confidence. It's been whispers of Rock Nation. Of course, I'm not sure of that. But I definitely think from a PR standpoint, I think they did good from a PR standpoint, for sure. And I definitely think they played a major role in him winning the case, for sure.
So do you think the relationship between him and Rihanna sort of helped them? So
Yeah,
she wasn't involved. Good.
Yeah, image-wise, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm still surprised that she's with him, first of all.
You and me both.
I am too. I'm not going to lie. I am. I really am.
And she's just a baby mama. Like, I mean, but if I was a billionaire, I don't think I would marry him either. But I mean, anyway.
There's a lot of baby mamas out here.
You know how I feel about
more baby mamas than wives and stuff like that and everything else. So it's a higher percentage.
I mean, you know how I feel about ASAP. Like, we go all the way back to George Floyd, and he was like, "Those are poor people problems." And now you want everybody he wanted everybody on his side when he got arrested in Amsterdam. And I was like, "Oh no, that's rich people problems. I don't get locked up abroad. I can't. I can't be worried about this. I can't be involved."
Consistency.
Kevin Brown, are you a fan of ASAP?
I mean, I entertained his music, but was I a fan? No, honestly, I didn't know this dude was on trial. I didn't even know about the whole Rihanna thing. I don't care about the dude, but I did listen to like a breakdown of what happened. And that's why I understood Tamisha's reaction. I mean, it sounds like he did it.
Exactly.
You know, and all I gotta say
Everybody
is,
told on him anyway, Kev. Did you
Yeah.
watch it? Everybody was telling on him. Everybody in the group.
oh no, I got about 7-minute dose. That's about all I got.
They sat on the stand and told on him, and all the stories
Gee.
made sense to me. So.
All I gotta say is the court of public opinion is very powerful. Very powerful.
Jim, I got a question for you. In this case, as an example, right, of racial bias, in the justice system, would you say that this is an example of it or no?
No, this is an example of money and power. Once you get a certain pay grade, you no longer a race. Michael Jordan is in a race. LeBron James is in a race, right? Like they go to anywhere. They know. So this is all about money and power, right? Like, I mean, he got out, right? I definitely say Rock Nation, but he's going to be indebted into whatever it is. So whatever happens is going to be something crazy, but it was all a money grab, right? Like, the legal system we see it was always been for sale, right? Like, so it's like, so, I mean, look at what's my man, Tory Lanez. Like, so you go against money. You talk about money versus, and that's the thing. It's a form called like vague, right? In hypnosis is vagueness, right? So we see ASAP Rocky, we see a black person, right? The court sees ASAP Rocky's whatever money they just got off of him. Now he's gone. That had nothing to do with what we see versus what's happening. It's always, different things.
All right. Well, we gotta move on. I applaud ASAP for having the money to get off.
Or Rihanna.
So,
Rihanna had the money.
Yeah. Having the baby mama that's affiliated with the money to get off.
Didn't sign that check.
So for our last segment, we're going to talk about the 2025 political climate and campaign strategies, grassroots activism versus corporate backed campaigns. And I'm going to go back to Roderick with this. What's the most effective way for politicians to connect with voters?
I definitely think from a grassroots standpoint, it just kind of creating those organic relationships with organizers and with organizations that are centered around, bettering the community. I think that's a good vehicle because, of course, they are fully connected to the community. They phone bank, they text bank, and they're actually out there, which is a little bit different from like corporate where people have money and they can use these big ads and different things. And although like grassroots organizations also kind of use ads, it's more like a community ad versus like those national ads that like corporations will use.
Got it. Kevin Brown, do grassroots movements still have any sort of power, you think, or no?
I think they definitely do. Obviously you're working against the corporate beast, but I think this past election cycle has shown the power of social media. So as a grassroots organization, make sure your voice is louder than the one next to you. And the easiest way to do that is through clear messaging across multiple social media platforms, multiple forms of content.
Well, it definitely worked, this past election, right? So
yeah, of course.
So social media, yeah, for sure.
Social media,
yeah.
Or money again, or money.
Yeah, they use the money, Jibby. They did. They used the money to go into these small communities to trick all these Venezuelans and stuff to vote for him.
So even when you take it to social media, right? When you take it to something like that, now your money can change the algorithm. So where in reality, I think the grassroots movement really works when we come back together, like in person. Social media, anybody can affect that, right? Like literally, that's the money component. In person, these people can't just send bots to make you think a certain way. They have to show face, right? Now we're coming together energetically. Now we're, you're asking real questions. Do we just see you out here when you want something, or you've been out here? So I think like if grassroots movements really going to work, is the unification component, right? But also finding a vision to attach to, and not people. It had nothing to do with the messengers, but more the vision. And once that happens, I mean, but if we're talking still in the political realm, as long as we got this electoral college, none of that even matters.
I agree. Abolish the electoral college.
Is that like the only conversation we have? Destroy that. Period.
destroyed
In the story.
electoral college.
If we have any-
Hold on, but I'd
I think
argue
it's very
like
efficient. Somebody tell Elon that the electoral college is not efficient.
You got to trick them and make them think that it benefits them. That's the thing. Like we see certain things, but everything they're doing is only benefiting them. Like best to believe, like this has nothing to do with small people. Has nothing to do with nobody. Like they're literally diabolical villains in there just messing stuff up. And it's like, we had fun, right? They.
Well, I will say this, Kamala, whatever you want to call her, she did have a lot of money. She had about $1 billion, give or take, and she didn't change any type of algorithm. So that's on her. So,
Whatever.
Jim, go ahead, Jim. I want to hear what you got.
I'm not gonna do this with you, Terry.
I'm just saying she didn't change anything, right? She had the opportunity.
significantly outspent that man.
Where did the bread go? So since we talk about money,
Because she
where
wants
did
to
the money
run
go?
around lying to people.
Yeah, but that billion still don't work with 2 billion.
But did he spend $2 billion?
I mean, guess what? And maybe not money, but handshaking is worth more than that. I don't know if you know the real game. Like I'm a man, I never lost Monopoly one day in my life, right? And the game is really won by getting in people's head, making different connections and bids and stuff like that. So it never has to be the fiat. It's all about the partnership, right? It's all about who you know and how you move.
I mean,
The next time I come to Orlando, we're gonna play Monopoly. I'm not, because I never lost a game of Monopoly as well. So I'm just saying.
Hey, I could come to where you at. It ain't that.
I'm in Las Vegas.
Knock on the door.
Tamisha, you were about to say something. Go ahead.
I said, didn't Elon pay for votes for his best friend?
Here we go with this.
Wasn't he paying people like 50 grand to vote for him?
No, $1 million.
$1 million for a
If
vote.
you really want to know the
Oh,
dollar.
okay. I knew someone would know how much he paid for the vote. So I'm just
or a couple free Teslas.
Your whole family got a fleet of Teslas and a charging station. Thank you.
and a pass on the highway that you can now take any.
Hold on. On that one, I gotta push back just a bit. On that one, if all you had to do was sign a petition,
Okay.
that you would vote and you could win the chance for $1 million, would you not do it? Regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of who's dishing it out, you go buy a scratch off. Would you not go register to vote?
Two things can be right. Remember, you said that. Like 2 things
Can
can
be
be
true.
Huh?
I
No,
said
no,
2
I mean,
things
yeah.
can be right though.
Very true. Like,
I don't know if I can
okay, very true. I would see more conservatives coming out for Elon dishing out $1 million. What was it? A week for registrations. But I could also see independents. I could also see Democrats. I could also see libertarians getting out there to vote, because who don't want $1 million?
But there's also thing that's what you're hearing on your feed. Imagine what other people are on theirs. That's the dangerous part.
Get out your echo chamber.
Right? No. So we're not saying like, but it's other people that's hearing different things. So you may see the $1 million. Somebody else may see the $2 million, or the I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
You gonna leave the two?
Huh?
You gonna leave the two? I'm
Yes,
not.
the game is
I might
already
register
fixed,
twice.
so it really don't even matter for real. It's like get what you get. At the end of the day, it don't. I'm telling you.
I will say this. It was very nefarious, the state that he chose to do that in. Pennsylvania, one of the swing states that he needed to win. I'll be
That was
valid
smart.
with
That's
that.
smart.
That was very strategic. But take him to court, sue his ass. If they truly believe that it was illegal, if they truly believe that he was buying, sue him.
And by what judge is going to convict us?
No judge is going to convict him, and you know that he's going to
They
get
ain't got the balls to do what they value.
We know that. We seen a whole we seen that forever. That's not
That's the problem.
So
yes,
if you joined us last season, towards the end we do like a final thought type of question, and that's what we're about to do right now. I'm gonna put the question out there, and then I want to go directly to Jimmy Roberts because I know that this might trigger him, and that's my full intent and my goal, right? So how responsible are we for our own behavior, actions, and image? And are we naive to the fact that we often just say the game is rigged? Oh, they set the game up. they're against us, and etc. Jimmy, how do you feel about that question? Once again, I'll say it again. How responsible are we for our own behavior, actions, and image?
I would say 10% of people aren't responsible, right? And I say that only because of understanding how the hypnosis is being utilized, right? Through music, through media, through indoctrination, through food, through your housing. All of these components weaken, right, your ability to make educated decisions outside of what's being presented to you, right? So if you don't know you're in a hypnotic state, then guess what? You're going with the flow, right? And people find that hard to believe until you have a conversation with a hypnotist and you're saying yes 3 times, and the 4th time you're automatically saying yes, right? Because it's a yes set. So it's different things that your mind does, and a lot of people that's in charge is understanding of that. So this is the thing that they're putting in there, right? This is why they're poisoning the water. This is why they're poisoning the fruits and stuff like that. So you don't have that same, strength. Look at the hypnotic components in cell phones and Instagram, right? Like all of these things affect us to where I wouldn't say you really have full capacity to make a decision on your own.
Roger, how do you feel?
I feel so many things. I think that we have to be, we know that we have to be overly in charge of our emotions. Even when we're having these conversations, right? We know we have to be overly in charge of our emotions and not letting our emotions drive what we say and do. But I would have to say, like, as I gotten older, I realized that it's not really so much about what the truth is. It's about what people think. And you'll hear it when anybody has discussions about different opinions. It's not about what the actual truth is. It's about what people believe. And I believe that's actually what's going on in the world right now, that it's about what people think and what they believe, right? And so for me, those are just some of my thoughts. Those are some of my top line thoughts without me digging deep into it. But those are some of my top line things.
Okay. Tamisha?
I think you just have to be. We could blame ourselves. We could blame ourselves. I know that's what you think, that it's probably mostly our fault, the way that we end up in the situations that we do. But I also think that, again, if things are stacked up against us, if the starting line is here and I'm starting 100 feet back, if I'm not Usain Bolt or Sha'Carri Richardson, I'm not winning. Like, I'm just saying. So I could say that is it my fault I'm not Usain Bolt or Sha'Carri Richardson and I won't be able to beat you because you're that far ahead of me? Like, so I have to put that into consideration. I have to. If they've already got a leg up, like, you have to put that.
But who is they?
You know who got a leg up, period. Don't play.
Who is they? And my whole thing is, why not just run your own race, your own game, and figure it out? Figure it out on how you can win.
I think that we have done that.
Instead of worrying. Go ahead.
I think that we have ran our own race and had to figure out our own way. But again, I could have figured it out much quicker, much sooner, a generation ago. You understand that? Like, that could have happened for us as a people, as even with in my own family. There are thousands of things that I know my great grandmother didn't know that she would be able to teach my grandmother, and then my grandmother would be able to teach my mother. My mom is literally the one who has broken all of those curses to figure out things so that I know things to tell my daughters. And I still don't know everything, but that just shows like how behind we are.
Do you think, and I mean, when I say who are they, I think we all know.
My counterpart, little
right.
Sally.
But do you think that they're having similar conversations and saying, oh, well, they are so much ahead in certain categories?
I think that they have had those conversations. The fear of us figuring out things, I think, drives a lot of the ways that they do stuff. If we as a people truly figure things out, Terrence, we would be fierce. Like, the world would be totally different. Like we are more powerful more than we know. And I think that they understand how powerful we are. So I do think that they have those conversations, but those conversations are revolved around, okay, so how do we keep them from getting from realizing this? Yeah,
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think they're sitting down eating macaroni and cheese and some turkey and some collard greens.
First of all, they're not eating real mac and cheese. They're eating Kraft.
Well, there's the box or not. I don't think they're sitting there talking about, oh, let's try to figure out how to keep a certain demographic or a certain group of people back. I don't really think that's a conversation. Not in 2025.
Oh, okay. You so cute.
Kevin Brown.
You're so cute, Terry.
Kevin Brown. Oh, your mic is on.
Your mic is muted. We can't hear you, Kevin.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you.
I agree with Terrence. I don't think they're sitting here worried about us. And if anybody is,
Black men, they are truly worried about y'all. That's what y'all better wake up.
Hold on. I don't think. No, let me ask you. Okay, I'm gonna use myself. If I had a bag, and I've been getting it for generations, teaching my kids how to get it, and ain't nobody stopped me, I ain't worried about stepping on the next dude to make sure I can keep my bag. I'm focused on everything I've been doing to keep the bag this whole time. I don't need to reinvent the wheel as everybody else is coming up, because I'm gonna come up exponentially quicker than you, right? I'm not rich. I ain't got money like that, but I'm just thinking as if I did have money like that.
That's you, Kevin. That's
I agree, but I think we should all adopt this 90% accountability with our lives mentality. I agree with Jimmy. There's a lot in this world that we can't make proper decisions on because we don't have the information, or we're ignorant to that information. Like something I agree on is when it comes to food, the food we eat. We don't really know a lot of what we're eating. So can we make a proper decision to eat healthier? And most of all, can we afford it? Right? So I agree with Jimmy on that. I agree with Terrence that we should take majority accountability for the decisions that we make, and we should make the most out of the life and the resources that we have. We should be our best selves with what's available to us, and effort to keep accruing and exponentially stack this bread for the next generation, teach them and how to break the curses that we already broke. I think this is what we should focus on, while understanding the past, understanding our history, and understanding what got us here, recognizing that we are in a totally different position nowadays with the world as our oyster, and focus on how to continue to accrue. I think that's where our focus should be, rather than blaming people for the situation that we are currently in. They don't give up about you.
Well said.
But you also said the opportunities the things that are available to us. That's what you said. So that are available to us. Who is determining what's available to us?
Your parents.
What I know, but what's available to my child?
Your parents.
Yeah,
as a child, your parents. As an adult, you. Get out the neighborhood.
What's available to Lamaya, her best friend is not available to her best friend. They have two talk there
for a certain period of time. At a certain period of time, she starts making her own decisions. And when she starts making her own decisions, she can decide to take risks. She can decide to go see different parts of the world. She can decide to go experience different aspects of the world, meet new people, assimilate in different cultures, and then she can use that information to move across the world the way that she feels is fit. And because she does all of this, she has now expanded access to so many different resources because she's put herself in so many different environments. Take accountability for where you are. If you don't like where you at, change your environment.
Tamisha, go ahead. Because I do want to tap into Roderick, because I've been watching him for the last 2 minutes. For the last 2 minutes, I've been watching him.
I understand.
But go ahead, Tamisha, respond, and I'm going directly to Roderick.
I was just gonna say, Kevin, like I said, like what is available to my daughter is not available to her best friend. My daughter I make sure that they have as many things available to them as I can. Her mom isn't fortunate enough to do that. Like her best friend's mom is not fortunate enough to do that. So the things Lamaya has by the time she's 18, things that Lamaya has been doing for 10 years, her best friend may just be doing it. You see what I'm saying?
I
you see so in my head, it's like, yes, those things were available to Lamaya, and she can see the world. She can already start moving on that path, staying in her lane, getting her bag. But her friend is a decade behind her, a whole decade behind her, because her mom could not afford, if that's financially, if that's mentally, she's not aware of, whatever it is, to be able to offer her those things.
That is 100% valid. I suggest a book called Outliers, to break down like the incremental advantages that you get over your lifetime and how that exponentially increases your opportunities. Check it out.
Roderick.
It's so many things. I'm trying to remember all of them. The first thing that I want to say is that we have never, as a people, made excuses. We have never used that as an excuse. We might sit in a conversation, we might talk about the things that are holding us back, but some of the things we got soul food from scraps, right? Some of the things you see people doing, we've never made an excuse, but we also cannot admit that these are things that are going on. If you think that people are sitting in a room and not discussing how we have advanced in so many areas and how they can figure out a way to hold us back, then you are literally not living on this earth. Literally. You can go to any job and you're going to be treated differently. Tamisha can go get her daughter every single resource in the book. When her daughter goes into the environment, she's going to still be a little Black girl. It doesn't matter how smart she is. It doesn't matter what she may know. She's going to be looked at as being a little Black girl. And so when we enter these environments, and I'm speaking, and again, when I say these examples, a lot of the examples are based on me entering spaces, right? And my knowledge of the world, just like everybody on this call, right? But when I enter spaces, I am a big 6'3", 200 and something, we're not gonna get the exact number, 200 and something Black man. And when I enter this space, it doesn't matter how smart I am, they see a big Black man. And this is from experience. And they are threatened by me. Even before I open my mouth, I've been in environments where I don't want to say dumb myself down, but I'm gonna be quiet until it's my time to speak, right? Just like I am on this call. But they're still threatening. So my thing is, we're never using it as an excuse. We're going to always put our best foot forward. We're going to always make it shake and bake and make it happen. That's in our DNA, right? But people, you cannot hide the fact that people don't want us to continue to succeed. You cannot hide the fact that, even when you say stuff like, if you're getting a bag, you're going to keep teaching your kids how to get the bag. You can say those different things, but there's a difference in back in the day. You had a few people, few Black athletes who could have been good on the team, but now it's like 15 and 20 on each team. And they see that and they are threatened by that. They are threatened by the music. A lot of people made comments about, small example, about Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl, right? People are like, some people don't know those songs. It doesn't matter if they know the songs, right? Because every time there's been so many Super Bowls and different events where it might be an artist of other races who come out and we might not know those songs, right? And so I think that it's just important to remember like what we are fighting for, and important to remember that some of the things that they've done even now in a short amount of time, when we have this conversation 5 months from now, you have to be blind not to clearly see the differences. I'm not saying that you should make excuses and that we should not put our best foot forward. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be responsible and accountable. We have, but it is very tiring. It honestly, as a 36-year-old man and being in different environments, and I've lived in 8 different states doing work, it is very, very tiring. I have to literally coach myself every night. Like, okay, when you enter this room tomorrow, keep your head up. When you enter this room tomorrow, they might act like they don't hear what you're saying. Keep saying it. And so when people say those things and I see for myself that is not true, like that literally makes my skin crawl in a good way. No disrespect to nobody here. I love hearing everybody's opinions, but we cannot act like these things are not happening. That's just not, that's not realistic.
I want to say something real quick, and then I'm going to come to you, Kev, real quick, because I do want to get Kevin Jones' thought on it, because he has a different, opinion out in Philadelphia, stuff like that. We all, I feel like we wear this skin differently, right? No matter if it's much lighter, much darker, in the mid, brown skin, whatever it might be. And I walk into every room not playing defense, but I play offense. And I don't put anybody above me. I don't in my head think that I'm above anyone else. I just say, okay, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do the best that I can. And that's just how I personally see it. That's my experience. So I just want to put that out there real quick. But Kevin Jones, I know that you guys are going to disagree with that. And I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but there's nothing that you can do about how it is, but just figure out the game, play it, and win. That is it. We know that it exists, but your job is to figure out how to win Monopoly. Just because you didn't get Park Place and you didn't get Boardwalk, how the hell do you still win the game towards the end of the day?
Buy a moment.
I think well, everybody's right. Everybody's right in all their opinions, everybody that presented on this topic. I think it has a lot to do with fear. So I think we have the knowledge now. Now we have the knowledge. We're on it. We can be on an even playing field. But I think it's the fear of us actually putting those things into place. And that's what I'll say about that. I feel like I have a lot of knowledge that I have not put into effect, or the things that I know now that probably my parents didn't know, like trust and things like all those things, like those things that the game is being played, like that everybody knows. Like we kind of know this stuff now. This information is ready available to us, but we never act on it. I'm just saying, as a people, it's almost like you're taking in that knowledge and it doesn't get used, and it's kind of just like, why is it not being used? I can tell you why, because like Roderick said, I walk into some of these rooms and I'm playing defense, and I think that.
But why? But why though? Why?
I think it's instilled in us.
No, it's instilled in you.
No. Correct.
It's in you and your mindset, like how you're looking at the whole entire picture.
Hypnosis. These are the things embedded.
You're probably right.
You've been told. You should be afraid.
No. That's why I said, like, and for Jimmy bringing that up, like I'm learning. That was a learning experience for me. So that's what I'm taking from it. I'm just telling you how I felt. For the topic, it's fear. A lot of us are afraid to advance, to move forward.
So okay, so
what does that really mean?
You think that it's the person then and how they see the world?
Absolutely.
So then for Roderick, okay, so and not to stir up the pot, but so when Roderick says that he walks into these spaces, he's 36, he's 200 pounds, he's 6'4", all this stuff like that. You think that is him and how he's processing the world?
Kind of, sort of, but not really, because like I said, the environment has a lot to do with it as well, and exposure. So, are you really being exposed to these to these actual things? Mm-hmm. Like I was put in quote unquote the real world with everybody at 18. I didn't know what this is. I don't know, but I was put in that environment, to learn more about what the real world is. Did I take a lot of that information that I got from my college experience? Yes. Did I use it? Probably not. But I think environment, number one, and fear, and how you were raised. Like, I mean, we're all raised differently, right? So we're all being put in positions that are different from others. So I'm trying. I put my kids in a different position than I had. Right. Mm-hmm. That's what me and my wife, we always do. We put our kids in positions that we didn't have, so they can experience that and how they're going to gain that knowledge that they have. So I think, and it's passed on from generation to generation to generation. But I do think some of it, is based off of fear. I think this is based off of fear.
We got a couple of minutes left. I'm gonna go to Roderick, Jim, and I want to close it with Tamisha. Rod, go ahead.
I'm gonna make it quick. I just want to be clear that when I was gonna make it quick. When I enter these environments, y'all, I'm not going to these environments with like my guard up, maybe a little bit of my guard up, but when I go into these environments, I want to be clear too. The last 4 organizations that I have worked for, I want to be clear with y'all, I have been the only Black person. When I say the only Black person, I'm not talking about the only Black man, the only Black person in these environments. And so I feel like I have been in diverse environments for, workspace wise, but when I'm saying these things, it's not that I'm going in there. I know how to play the game. That's maybe how I got to be the only Black person in these environments. But what I'm saying to y'all is that at some point you get tired of those same consistent things. And when we have people like, one of the main issues I think is going on right now is that we do not stick together in some of these thoughts and different things. And we are told and taught that, hey, you go in there, you just play Monopoly. That's what I've been doing my whole life thus far. And look at the Monopoly, you know what I'm saying? Look what the world is now, because we keep going into these spaces, playing Monopoly, instead of doing different things that we could do to make these situations and our lives better. That's just my opinion,
Well, but there's a few things on how you can adjust that, right? So like if you were the person in charge or doing the hiring, you have the autonomy to decide who now comes in,
Mhm.
right? So if you're not in that position or you're not creating that type of opportunity for somebody else, I mean, look at all of us on the call. So say it in 4, I thought of this 5 years ago and I kept it like this the entire time because I have the opportunity to present and make it look like this.
Right.
Mhm.
You know, so I could say next season, okay, it could be just one black person and a whole bunch of white people, but whoever is the person who's doing the hiring, they decide how the space is going to look. That's it.
DEI is cut, so it won't be too many leadership people and leadership of people of color.
Yep.
Just so you know.
See,
Just so you know.
Can I segue off of that? Because that's perfect leading into my point. And this is like a question to pretty much everybody here. Do we hold the people who disadvantaged us for generations more accountable than the people who look like us, are from our communities, who got it
Mhm.
and did not create these opportunities for people that look like us? Who do we hold more accountable?
I definitely hold us more accountable. Like
I disagree. I don't think you do. I don't think you do.
I don't think we do. I don't think the main reason I think that is because this question is not asked.
Yeah,
This question is not asked often. And I think one, we should be critiquing those people who got it and aren't creating opportunities, positions for people that look like them, especially at the top of the hill, virtue signaling. And yeah, I'm thinking as simple as I can say it. We should hold them to a higher standard.
Jim, how you wanna
So I wanna piggyback off of one what you've done, right? And what you've done is you've created it. That's the whole thing. You created what you want, and you have that ability, as we all do. You know, Roderick, you go into these rooms and you understand that now you have a skill set that you can create this room that no one has to go in there and feel out of place because you've created it, right? Like I think that's a component that we don't really get to look at. When you're a chosen one, you are going to be in places, right, that people don't look like you. But it's not to stay in that place. It's Sankofa. It's go and bring that information back, and now let us create together, right? Like it's like, yo, I got the juice. Here we go. But we, you know, and I say we, you know, the ones and twos is the whole the inclusion and illusion, right? So you're an illusion. It's the illusion of inclusion. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'll stay here and I can change this. You can't change something that you didn't start. You don't know what the seed is. So when that shit grows a watermelon and you be like, I've been wanting a peach tree. Guess what? You got to go and plant that yourself with your own intention, and that's the only way it changes.
Any thoughts to that? I mean, you hit it spot on though.
Yes, he did. He did. You did create this, Terrence. So yes, that's true.
Well, yeah.
Which is great, like which is a great example of everything, but everything, right? Like anything that we see that, you know, that Kevin was talking about, like see it and we can make it that same system. We can duplicate that system, but better, because the melanin is our creation, right? That's what sets us differently. is a creative component, and you can't stop creation, but you can stop our minds. You can limit our imagination. So we're having conversations on something that we have no control over versus something that we can create and now move that shit how we feel.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna close the show, but I mean, just my last thoughts on this is just and you know, Kevin Brown, like when we were talking about him coming on the show, right? He said, look, sometimes I get into these conversations with people and we go back and forth, and people they don't hear me. I'm always like outnumbered. I'm like on a sidebar. And that's how I feel sometimes. You know, Tamisha, you can make that face if you want. But some of this stuff, I'm like, why are we not like just trying to figure out this game instead of like just constantly complaining about all of these type of things? I'll never understand.
I don't think it's
never understand that.
It's acknowledgement of it being in existence.
For how long and how many times?
When is it gonna stop?
To what end?
It's gotten worse.
How long? It'll never end. It'll never stop.
So then I'm gonna keep bringing it up so they know that it exists.
Why can't we adopt the Black Wall Street mindset and just build it for ourselves completely separate instead of constantly trying to integrate ourselves into spaces where we do not feel like we are welcome.
I
It's
agree.
fear.
You build a Black
Fear.
Wall Street, they got something for you.
I agree. It is
Fear.
fear.
I
From my
agree.
own personal growth, I don't do it. I don't make these efforts because I'm afraid of, I don't know what that lifestyle looks like. And I'm afraid of changing what's comfortable. Right. And I think the same philosophy is applied when it comes to like breaking out of this misfortuned mindset and looking forward and saying, okay, rather than look backwards, I'm going to look forward as to what I can take advantage of.
Understood.
Jim, you was
Oh no,
waiting
that's
for-
how I move. Now that's
Okay.
how I move. When I
Okay.
again to mention the hypnosis is to mention things that people don't really understand. And a lot of people, if you don't study it, you really it's like, oh yeah, that's just a buzzword. Like, no, when you really understand that your mind has certain formulas in order for you to now be manipulated a certain way, right? Like now you sit back and be like, that person isn't doing that because that's innate in them. They're doing that because society is saying this is what's acceptable. Society is saying that. So now you get somebody that morphs right in front of you only from the information that they're putting inside of them. So that's not an excuse at all. That's actually understanding what someone is going and having empathy and understanding. And then in order for them to now, start to see in the other aspect of it. So that's what that more so is.
And we're going to leave off at that. I want to thank each of you for joining me tonight to carry this conversation for a brand new season. Season 5, episode 1. I can't believe it's been 5 years. That's so crazy. So crazy. Co-host Kevin Brown, Kevin Jones, Tamisha Blue, Roderick Smith, and special guest host Jimmy Roberts. Thank you guys for joining me. You can watch Say It in 4 every single week starting now. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, on Spotify if you want to listen to us in the car. And once again, thank you guys for joining us. Have a good night.